What is what's Spanish for numbers?
Uno, dos, tres.
Yeah, Trace, dos, uno.
Duo.
Hey, it's Kyle from Geek-Cetera, and I'm joined by Chase and Ezra. You might get like 1/8 of Ezra, because just he'll be jumping in and out with his weird computer, in his video and stuff. But that's okay, Ezra. We love you, and we just want our friends at home to know not to be worried about you. Anyways, news recently broke that there have been talks between the team behind the X-Men animated series and Disney. So we decided to sit down for a few minutes and give our thoughts. So let's get geeky. All right. So here's what's going on. I'm just going to read a little bit from the IGN article that came out August 9th. So during the Wizard World panel, I've never heard of this. I apologize to all the wizards in the world. But during the Wizard World panel last Friday, the X-Men animated producer and director Larry Houston talked about the lingering rumors of there being a possible decades later revival of the X-Men on the horizon. So he said, we've had talks with Disney, and that's about it. We've made a conversation, and it's up to them to make the decision, but we've let them know that we're available for whatever they want to do in the future. And then he clarified, he said he would love to return if they could do a special one-off episode or a 5-part episode with the original team, and that's what he'd come out of retirement for. So that's the news. I know, Chase, I don't think you've seen any of it. Ezra, you said you've seen reruns, but what are your thoughts?
I have no thoughts.
Okay.
My head is empty.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I was thinking. I mean, I have seen reruns. I wasn't really alive for that series. That series was, what did I say earlier? 1992 to 1997.
You're gonna make some people feel old.
Well, it's not that. It's just that I'm really young. So that's the issue. I feel like I kind of missed out on that because just watching the reruns, it seemed like a really good show. I actually watching as a kid, even though I didn't like reruns. They're never going to play start to finish like the whole series. So I never actually saw like start to finish the whole series, but it looked, I mean, and I don't know. It's been a while too. That show like had it like story arcs, right? Like, so
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a big fan of cartoons that do that, namely the Clone Wars, like where we have like a start and a like an actual story that most cartoons are just kind of like one up stories, but these stories like continued episode on episode, and I'm a big fan of that. I'm also a big fan of the X-Men, and maybe about a half to a quarter of the movies that were made about the X-Men. It's almost like every other one was good, or maybe not even, but yeah. So that would be something I'd watch for sure.
Yeah. So I can give you a little bit of backstory on that. I mean, they did do arcs. We've talked about this cartoon a little bit. We had a great debate about what was the greatest cartoon ever. Mine was Batman the animated series, but Luke's was X-Men the animated series. And Luke had made a lot of points that for him it was about the story arcs, like you were saying, and they really did the best stories that had been in the comics to that point very well, much better than the movies did. And I would agree. My big knock was just the animation. It was just not as good as the animated series, but it was pretty good. And now, fast forward to 2020, the animation can be whatever you want it to be. And Disney has the money to make it rock with the stories that they do so well. So I think it could succeed. And you had mentioned those movies. Well, especially the first 3 X-Men movies had a lot of influence from X-Men the animated series, which you could see. So they were really good. I want to key in on something that I had an issue with, and I think you guys had an issue with the Clone Wars revival, and that was it was a 12 episode arc that probably could have been a 4 episode arc, and Houston, the producer, said he's only coming back for one special episode or like a 5-part episode, like really, really tight. That's all he's coming out
Yeah.
for. So he wants to put everything into it. I'm excited about that.
So Josh obviously isn't with us right now. He's off talking with Todd about how overrated Boba Fett is. But I'll just read what he wrote for us. So just picture this in the voice of Josh, which I don't have. After reading the article, I'd be surprised to see it happen with the same team that did the 90s animated series. I could, however, see them do a reboot. I could, however, see them reboot it with a brand new team. Maybe do it in CGI or something. I just think that with some of the original team in retirement, it seems unlikely and honestly unnecessary. So,
Ouch.
the reason I wanted to bring up what Josh wrote is Kyle said something about the animation style with Disney and the money that they have. How do you think this would look if it was like a full CGI like the Clone Wars versus a more animated style?
It'd be okay. It'd lose the nostalgia for me, but I still think the series would be good. It kind of stinks, like, if it's unnecessary to bring the original team out of retirement. I mean, that might be saying something like, in 2030, 2040, they were gonna do another final season of the Clone Wars or bring it back for a special episode,
Or
and
they
saying,
bring
"Oh,
some
well, it'd be unnecessary to bring Dave Filoni back." And just go with whoever the top
Yeah.
Star Wars guy is.
Yeah,
Then
I just think that when you put it that way, it wouldn't feel the same. It would not feel like the Clone Wars. So
yeah,
I can understand why your nostalgia of the X-Men series would not be there because it's a new person. So
yeah. I'm just excited for the whole package. If they can bring that back and do something really special for the fans. I'm talking fan service, something I don't talk about a lot, especially with Star Wars. But I think it could be special, and I would be really excited to see it. Here's the last thing: I don't know a lot about story arcs for X-Men from the 2000s. The only one that came to my mind while I was reading this was House of M. Are either of you familiar with House of M? What is that all about? Could that be no? Okay. That was the only one I could think of, just because I haven't read up on the X-Men.
yeah,
Oh, like from the comics?
Right. Like what stories could they? Because they really covered a lot of really good stories, including Days of Future Past. They've already done the Phoenix Saga, so I'm interested to see what they try to pull.
Yeah, I think that definitely would be interesting. I kind of wanted to say a word to like why I think it might have been so successful, the cartoon. And I think it's got to do with what you said earlier with how well they covered the stories from the comics. I think it's a really neat idea. I have a point to this, by the way. Being able to adapt stories from comics into this form of media, because really cartoons are probably maybe the closest you can get to like a comic book coming to life. And I think the art style was really similar to hand drawn comics, basically. And I thought that was really cool. And I think some things that are a little bit more like fantastical that don't really work on like live action because it's just too out there. It still works in cartoons. So I think it's really, I think that was what was kind of special about it a little bit. And again, like you said, they covered those story arcs from the comics really well, and I think that's probably what people liked about it so much.
Yeah. Yep. I would agree.
So I think, so the point of that was make CG might be a little counterintuitive to that. I'm not sure that would really, if you're gonna go all out and do a fan service, I'm not sure that's the direction you want to go, because I don't think the fans would actually like that. I think they'd want to see it in the original art style.
Yeah.
Does
I
that make sense?
no, I agree with that. I think if they went CG, the stories could still be really good.
Yeah.
I would prefer they kept the same art style and just they have the budget to do it really well.
Mm-hmm.
So
I agree, but and I think that does strengthen Josh's point too, that it might be unnecessary, especially if they do make it CG, like that aspect.
Yeah.
I don't know if it really is. I don't really know if it would be well received as CG, and at that
right.
point it would be unnecessary because the intent would be a fan service and it wouldn't be delivered as a fan service. So
Yep.
Yeah.
that might be what he's talking about. I wish he was here. He could
Defend his
say
own
if that
points.
was
Yeah.
it. Yeah, but yeah.
Yeah. It you even saw the art styles change from the comic series in the 90s, like going from actually Spider-Man had some, I want to say, computer generated stuff even in the early 90s, but like jumping to Spider-Man 2099 um and just other later series, you could see how it started to influence and it wasn't as good. It wasn't as good even back then. So well, that's all I have. Do you guys have anything else?
Nope.
I don't
I think that's it.
I don't think so. You guys have been so reserved and soft spoken. It's wonderful. I don't know what it is, but you've treated me well as a host. So anyways, but what about you, YouTube community? What do you think? Will X-Men return in an animated form? We know you have an opinion, so give it to us in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe if you hadn't, hit the bell. Tell us what we're doing wrong. I don't care. But thanks for watching. And Lalandra's out colder than leftover hush puppies. That was a quote.
It's clobbering time.
It's
Right
clobbering
here.
time.